From Season 3, Episode 3, titled Mousetrap. Mousetrap opens on a recap. Jim finds food and Kenny's mom is killed. We see Fatima eating the rotten food, and we're reminded of Boyd's plan to capture a creature. The recap ends with Thomas calling Jim. We pick up with Jim talking to Thomas over the phone. The entity ridicules Jim and reminds him that he should be looking out for his still alive children. The caller warns of an attack on Ethan and Julia. Jim rushes to find them. After getting the kids inside, he has a short conversation with Boyd where they both acknowledge things are getting worse. After the intro, we're taken to Tabitha and Victor's father. Victor's father wakes up to Tabitha breaking a plate on the kitchen floor. She cuts herself when she tries to pick it up. We realize she hasn't slept all night, and in this short exchange, we realize that Tabitha has told Victor's father most of her story. Back in town, Victor is seen looking at a hand-drawn map and trying to find something he may have buried. Boyd later speculates that the talismans protect them from monsters, but they might also be able to be used to trap a monster. The food crisis is over, since Jim and Kenny found all that food in the log village town last episode. Donna shows up to the police station where Boyd and Ellis are talking over their plan to capture a creature. Donna's against this plan. People in the big house are seen cooking huge steaks from the cow that got killed last episode. They divvied up all the meat and everybody's eating their share. Fatima is disgusted by the smell of the cooking meat as well as the coffee brewed, and she's seen by Tilly eating food from the rotten pile of crops outside. When Tilly sees Fatima, she runs away in embarrassment. Our food retrieval crew arrives at the log cabin village to gather up as much food as they can. It seems to have snowed completely here now, but Jim and Kenny picked as much of the food as they could and put it inside last time they were here. Kenny's all business, seemingly still haunted by his mother's death. Jim is seen cooking some lunch for Ethan. He talks about when the others return, they won't have to ration anymore. The lunch looks a little bit gross. You'd think they'd have some nice steaks from the cow that went down, but I guess they all ended up in the big house. Ethan goes on to talk about who's going to bury his mom, and Jim has a little bit of a freak out, insisting she's not dead. When the kids leave, the phone rings again, and Jim angrily slams it down, hanging it up. Victor's father and Tabitha inspect the bottle tree in the backyard of Victor's father's house. Victor's father tells Tabitha that this is just a recreation and the original is in a town over. Tabitha wants to go because this tree doesn't have a hole, but Victor's father is insinuating that the original does. Boyd works on his trap and he's met by the entity embodying Father Catry again. The entity tells him how bad his plan is and that the other side is winning, getting Boyd to change from his calculated decisions to something rash that might get him and someone else killed. Boyd wasn't building his trap. He was actually working on a nameplate to hang on the church's wall. He says that the gravestones are unmarked and that they can use this board to put down the names of the people they've lost to always remember them. Victor shows up at Sarah's house. He's seemingly dug up a suitcase and she invites him in. Tilly visits Fatima after seeing her eat the rotten food. She shares with her a story to try and comfort her about licking the inside of eggshells when she was pregnant with her first child, and she says these things will pass. Fatima breaks down crying, says she's very worried about the baby and she can't talk to anybody about it. Victor's father and Tabitha head to the original tree in Victor's father's car. When they enter the car, a familiar song comes on, and the two of them share that it was their significant other's favorite song. Back in the log cabin village, Jade is helping gather supplies. He takes a break to drink, then he wanders off after arguing with a fellow co-worker. After wandering off and taking a piss, Jade comes across some blood-stained rocks and a man spiked to the tree. He goes closer to investigate and the man attacks him, and just like that, it's all over. Jade was having another hallucination. Kenny and Christy argue over Kenny's behavior during the day. Just then, Jade arrives back in a frantic panic and wants to leave to head back to the town. They insist that he won't make it before nightfall, but he could make it to the Talisman Hut. He wanders off into the woods before they're finished their conversation, and Christy follows him. Christy steps onto a bear trap. The trap is chained to a tree, and Kenny and Jade break the release off when they attempt to get Christy out of the trap. Ethan is seen cleaning at the diner. Boyd arrives and attempts to instill some confidence in the young boy. Ethan breaks Boyd's hope by saying the things he's looking for aren't certain. Back at the bear trap, they're having a hard time removing it. Jade takes one of the other townfolk to get some metal bars so they'll have better leverage to remove the trap. Tilly plans to read Fatima's tarot cards. Fatima doesn't really believe in this, and she finds it insulting that Tilly would offer this as a solution to her worries. Fatima eventually gives in and allows Tilly to do the reading. As they're getting ready to flip over the first card, a bird slams into the window. When they finally do flip the card over, the giant bird bursts through the window, causing havoc. Eventually, the bird flies around manically and slams into the wall, killing itself. Jade pulls some steel rods from the wooden statues that were out front of the log cabin village. One of them falls over. They use the steel rods to get Christy out of the bear trap, but must reset her ankle as it's dislocated. Jade sees the man from earlier that was pinned to the tree. He sees the man drinking blood from a skull, and then seemingly the man offers the blood to Jade. Christy's cries pull him out of his hallucination, and they reset her ankle. They carry Christy back to the log cabin camp. The man in the bus is seen hallucinating big bugs again, first outside the window, then inside the bus. Boyd interrupts his hallucinations to ask if he would mind trading accommodations for the evening, so Boyd can scope out the monsters and get more information on them. Tabitha is carsick on the way to the bottle tree. Victor's father tells her to find some crackers in the glove box. When she opens the glove box, she finds the bracelet that she made for Jim. Originally, she had refound this in the diner. She starts to question her reality. The commotion she raises causes them to get into a car accident. She wakes up in an ambulance, along with Victor's father, a paramedic, two paramedics, and a police officer. While they're questioning Tabitha, the ambulance stops. They ask why, and the driver says that there's a tree fallen in the road. We get a zoom in on Tabitha, and we realize that they're back in the town.